So let us know what that opinion is. I'll kind of just start going through the MA questions once they stall out on the request to speak. So Adam GMAT, I'm gonna bring you in here next. Once you unmute yourself, you will be live.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I only had one real question, just I was saving up for an Olympus Lucky Box. I guess if rewards are reduced.
Honestly, I don't know if I just can't hear at this point. So Adam GMAT, if you are talking, I do apologize.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Discord is one of the most flawless things out here. I literally cannot stand it. But it's great for these community AMAs. So is what it is. I don't know if you guys could hear Adam. You can hear, yep, so you guys can hear that. Give me 1 second here. Who wants to be a fill-in talker? Chill, Mizzo. I just force somebody up here randomly. Just for like 10 seconds. Anybody? Okay, Link, I guess you're fine. I'll turn down my ship. I'll be right back. Let's you come in here anyway.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon. Hello. Oh, he left. I didn't know I was actually filling in for him. What's up, party people? This is fun, little crossover action. Hope everyone's doing well. I just chimed in, so I don't actually know what's going on. I just heard that he needed somebody up here, so. Bueller. Everybody doing all right? Got a full house here, geez Louise. Good turnout. Who's on first? Let me see what's going on in the chat. Maybe I can see what's going on. Well, anyways, for those curious, I'm going to shill our own little thing here, but I'm going to be doing an AMA later this week in the spring Discord. So if anyone wants to come hang out, you guys are all obviously welcome. We haven't announced a new launch date yet, but I'm hoping within the next few days we'll kind of see where the market's going. I think everyone's pretty sick of all the blood on the charts. I am too, but I'm just taking a look at it. There's a bit of green popping up, so hopefully within the next couple of days we'll have some answers. Just like I know the family here at Polars is looking for some solid info to give everybody here, because I myself am also an investor, so it's all good though. Oh, what's happening? Some big names here. Nobody wants to come in and chat, huh? Shib's left me some big shoes to fill. I know he did his Bigfoot AMA yesterday.
No.
So that was something to listen to. Hey, buddy.
You're away from that one. All right. Can we hear me now?
I got you. Yeah, man.
All right, cool. Sweet. So I just switched total platforms. It is what it is. I'm back on my phone. Don't love it over here, but it is what it is. Okay. All right. So I think we're back. So appreciate that. Appreciate it, man. Did you have questions while you're up here?
No, I already shilled my thing. Hopefully an AMA later this week. But no, do your thing, handsome. I'll be in the audience listening in.
All right, cool. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right. So that's been a mess, but Discord has done this to me. It is what it is. Okay. As we continue, though, let's see if I can find a way to navigate through what is going on with our questionnaires without having to get kicked out of the chat again. So as I'm doing that, One-Eyed Willie, I'm going to bring you in. What's going on, man?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you great. How are you?
Oh, it's went silent. That's what's wrong. Right, how's it going?
Oh, beautiful. Minus a Discord thing, but hey, we're back.
Oh, well, that's really messed up. Right, my question is, right, this has probably been asked about a million times, and it's something that I've just not had time or the patience to research myself, right? So, see how the price of Polar is currently down quite low, and it's tied to the AVAX price. So, see when AVAX doubles in price, what does that do to the Polar token price?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We've had this question generally after a price decrease and saying, hey, why don't we switch a liquidity pair to a stable coin instead, like DAI USDC, which is that's a great theory in general. So that is something to look towards, not at the bottom of a market as a knee-jerk reaction, but when the market is up. But to answer your question directly there, when AVAX goes up, obviously the liquidity pool will have the price of AVAX with it compared to the price of AVAX now with it. So it will be effectively, I'm not going to say it's going to be dollar for dollar plus kind of thing, but it does create a positive pressure on the token itself via the price of AVAX token. There are many factors into that because we are also our own level of supply and demand. So if our supply and demand goes down and AVAX goes up, it could be the same. If our supply and demand goes up and AVAX goes down, our token can go up, for example.
Yeah.
So it's linked, but it's not directly correlated.
Yeah, right. So basically, if in today's market, the exact same pairing, the exact same liquidity is in it, the same amount of people, nobody sells, and AVAX is double the price in an instant, would theoretically Polar be double the price if it was doubled like that?
It wouldn't necessarily be doubled, but it would be a positive pressure significantly. So you got to think the
just
liquidity
wondering, it's one of those things that's niggled at me for ages.
Gotcha.
Right, thanks for your time.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
Have a good day or evening.
Love the accents. So we've had that question. So the idea of changing up the liquidity pair is a good idea. I've seen that multiple times. We cannot make a knee-jerk reaction because in this case, there will be, let's just say, I don't know, let's say AVAX now goes, and we'll say we're at the bottom of AVAX, and we just made that knee-jerk reaction to change our entire liquidity pool. Then we just lost out on a pretty significant jump there. So those things like that, we did not consider it before because it's positive.
Everests are soon ending with the 20% tax, so they will drop to, I think it's 9%, if I'm right, on the 15th. So my first question is, don't you think that that's gonna bring more selling pressure? Second question is, what was gonna ask? Man, I can't remember. Yeah, try to answer the first question, please, and hopefully I'll remember the second one.
We'll go one at a time here, so no worries. So I do think that is going to be an issue that we do not want to have to deal with right now. So I think that's going to be at least a part of one of these proposals that should be coming up. With me being on mobile, it's less easy for me to see everyone that's in here, but I assume that there is at least one person from the core team in here, if not more. So that is something that we should probably significantly consider, at least for a short-term solution, because that will cause more sell pressure. Just directly, the same people that are selling the same tokens today are going to be getting it instead of at 22% tax, they'll be getting it at 9% tax in effectively 5 days from right about now plus 1 hour. So that is a legitimate thing.
Yeah. My second question is, in this cut and reward, I'm absolutely up for it, and I do really think that we should go this way if we thinking about a stable long-term vision. My question is, have you guys thought about how much you're gonna cut? Are you thinking about 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%? And also, if you do so, how fast you thinking to implement it?
Yeah, so that's a great question there. So the vote that's going on right now that I believe just ended was a vote to say yes or no to us giving proposals to the community in reference to a reduced rewards cut. So they voted at this point it's going to be yes. Then we will then propose multiple different options for the community to vote on. So there is plenty of thought going on to what those options are going to be and how it's going to be directed to the community, but it'll still be up for the community to pick from those options and say, hey, this is maybe we don't really love the idea of it in general, but we do understand that it's kind of needed right now via multiple variables beyond just the price action. This is more so the protocol level. So we'll select one that they can agree with, that it benefits the protocol and it still keeps the community on board. So that's what we do have to navigate on our end. And it'll be ideally sooner rather than later, in my opinion. We can't rush it necessarily, but if there is an issue, we need to get it going.
Okay, that's what I believe in as well. Just a quick one. I've seen this, and you did probably as well. You've seen this cutting reward before, and generally, what I believe it should be good for the protocol. In some nodes, what happened was people which were holding their tokens, they as soon as they knew that the rewards will get cut, they start selling like crazy. And you know which protocol that happened, I believe, because I've seen it, and it wasn't a good thing, to be honest. So, do you guys thinking of how to avoid this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so, I don't want to call anyone out directly, but if you look at the numbers of what's going on, that's already been happening here. Some of those
Yeah.
bigger bag holders have already been selling for now effectively a full week. So it's already turned for us. Now, the other protocol that you're talking about, it was kind of like a, shot in the face for people. They were not expecting it. And the vote just came in and it was very quickly implemented. And it did cause some concern. And that was when nodes were at like an all-time high of hype. So, if you recall them, they were over $200 a token at the time. So
Yes.
that's what's going on there compared to now where we're already beyond that sell effect. Now we need to sustain the protocol itself. And I said it's designed to be a temporary measure. My personal opinion is, 2.5 to 5% daily ROI is literally nearly impossible to work with until we have, let's just say, a true large scale revenue stream implemented. But that's up to the core team to figure out. I think our version of a rewards cut should be more beneficial to the community in the long term. And I do hope, I do believe that most people understand that.
Right. Okay, bro. Thanks for your time. Take care.
I appreciate you, man. All right, next one here. Joey, I'm gonna bring you up. How's it going? What up, Joey? You're unmuted. See, this could be me, but I don't think it's me this time. I think there's just no audio on the other end. When I muted, unmuted. So you can hear me. Somebody in the journal, tell me if it's Joey or if it's me. Why is his mic so bad? I know. I apologize. I do not wish it to be this way, Nest, but it is what I have to do right now. All right, so I'm going to try to do something else as well to see if I can improve it. Okay, so it's Joey. So sorry, bud. I know my audio's been messing up. There might be some
Hear me or no?
unable. Okay, I can hear you now. There we go.
Hello, hello.
What's going on? So now I can hear you, but I do not think you can hear me. Okay,
Let's see
Joey.
if it'll work.
We're going to move on from that one for now. There's the weekly Discord tundras. So, Muggles, let's get some good audio from that dog of yours.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. What's going on?
Hey, since nobody's asking questions, I might as well pop in here. So I had a couple of things. The first one I wanted to talk about was the cell pressure and how when we are compounding in polar, it's showing up as small cells on the DEX tools or DEX tools IO. And is there a way in the contract to like change that to where it could show up as small buys? Like Deegan was talking to me about that, said it was in like another protocol that when they compound in another protocol, it turns into a small buy instead of a small sell.
Yeah, so the only real way to do that is you would be buying with another token or with a stable coin. So then by definition, the smart contract would take that. Let's just use a stable coin like DAI. You buy your Everest with DAI, then the protocol itself would do an automatic buy in the router for the token. Now, because we are already making you buy the token, then that's kind of where it's different here. Now, that is the flip to that is when you are compounding, you're just creating rewards with your penny tokens. In that case, you are no longer buying the token, right? So that's the flip side of that, and that depends how that protocol is going to choose to distribute rewards. Because if they distribute in a native token, then it's irrelevant, and you'd still have that lack of buy pressure. But if they distribute it in some other token, then they don't really have the same kind of protocol itself. So very, very different philosophy. But you have to buy the token at some point. So I don't think it's really anything beyond visuals at this point.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm assuming the team is trying to address the cell pressure issue. You know, regarding like everything going down, Bitcoin going down, and AVAX going down. So is that a very important factor right now? The cell pressure that they're trying to adjust.
Yeah, so the sales pressure is what all this is going on to be right now. So that's why we're okay. So I'm trying to, sorry, there's apparently some people cannot hear your audio, they can hear mine. But some people can hear you.
I mean, I can hear you and you can hear me. I mean, I'm on mobile as well. I'm
We're
not on
fine.
PC.
We're going to keep going then. Okay, so right now, all these things that we're trying to do are to mitigate some of the sell pressure. So in the most basic way, obviously rewards cuts were put out in that announcement. But let's say you are generating 1,000 Polar per day, and you are selling all 1,000 per day, and that's just what you like to do right now. So that's what you're doing. So rewards are reduced by X%, then you would then be selling X times 1,000 instead of by the total 1,000. So inherently, it would be reducing the amount of Polar being sold directly if they're already selling. The difference is if they're not selling, then what are they going to do from there? And that's kind of another element and another variable to consider. But there is a lot of thought process on it. Is how can we best make the protocol not get too inflated with emissions, but also not discourage new investors. And I think that's where some of the tax questions come into play versus rewards and stuff like that. And it's a little bit of a long-term discussion, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, and just one more thing regarding the first question that someone had, and they were talking about the protocol where it was like $1 to $1 million with the I don't know whatever protocol that was. If they only have Ponzinomics scheme, like what's the difference? I mean, if there's no other utility, eventually when people stop putting in money, that's going to go down. So even if their price is high right now, if it's still Ponzinomics, then what's the difference regarding their system and our system? Is there a big difference?
So not necessarily while you're still in the Ponzi economic phase. So at that point, you just have to get those additional revenue streams up. So that's kind of the goal here, and I think we're closer than some others. So some of these protocols that are referred to us are either earlier on in their stages. We've been around since January, and it's May. So there are different levels to where these protocols are. But the ultimate goal is to get off the Ponzi economic theory for all of them.
Right. Yeah. We definitely got to get off the Ponzi economics, but also even with, let's say we get off the Ponzi economics, we need guys like Shilliam to market it so that people know where we're at. Because if people don't know that we're off the Ponzi economics, then what's the difference? We can't get new investors unless people know about us. So we got to work on marketing as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think marketing is a blanket term. I talked about that a lot last week. So right now we have kind of reached our audience that we are going to effectively get in this current market. All we can do is throw money at YouTubers, and then we'd be reaching out to the same exact people that are currently entering the crypto phase, and that's us. So you marketing during a downturn like this is not going to be very effective right now how it is. So basic marketing like Twitter, like things like that, they're always needing to be put out there. But real world marketing, kind of bigger picture stuff, you do have to time that because it is effectively costly, but it's also costly without a return if you do not do it properly, I guess.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So I mean, even if we do get more revenue stream, I mean, we still need people to actually get into Polar and see us. So I mean, we can't just think that getting off Ponzi economics is going to make us win when we still need more people to get in. All right. So yeah, and that's it. And good luck in your new career. I mean, I know you started. I guess was it yesterday? Was your new career starting?
Yes, I've officially left my main in-person job yesterday. So this is now
All
my
right. Well,
full-time gig is here in the crypto world.
yeah. Good luck with that. You started at the craziest possible time, but I'm
It's
sure
a
it
good
worked
job.
out.
I survived this. I'll survive anything with it. So
Yeah.
good enough.
All right. Thanks for your time, Shib.
Appreciate you, man. So trying to move you to the audience. I know that the audio is crazy. So let's see. I've restarted things. Blah blah blah. Is it still terrible? Probably. Some people didn't hear him at all.
Still don't know if anybody can hear me. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so we got a little bit. Great sound. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, we've only lost 40 of our people. Okay. All right, so I think audio's back up. It might go when I go into our other channels here, so if it does go again, I'm just going to end it because it's going to just get frustrating for us all. So, please, if you would like to speak, request to speak and I'll bring you up in, and we'll go from there. I'm a little bit nervous to even navigate over to the channels because that's how I was losing audio before. So if you have a question, proposal, concern, theory, idea, philosophy on life and polar, please request to speak and I will bring you in from the audience. Okay, I think hopefully people are mostly good here. Okay, sweet. So I'm not able to look at both at the same time, so I'm just going to focus on you guys waving your hands. So DJ scored. I'm trying to bring you up here.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
A little frustrated by Discord, but it is what it is.
I don't blame you. One question I had, just because I've seen it on other projects when they cut rewards, the way that they have to do it is that any rewards that are outstanding that haven't been claimed at that point disappear. And if that's the case, right, then everyone claims all their rewards and then sells everything right at that point. So is that something that in the event they do claim reduced rewards, then they're going to consider to try and prevent the situation where all existing rewards get cut by that same percentage, and it's just a prospective thing so that everyone doesn't dump at that point?
Yeah, so the way the contracts work are if there is a change in the tax system and the rewards rate, etc., it changes for everybody at the same exact time. So the only way to change that is if you were to do like a reduction via days of claimed or something like that, and then we can pull the data from the last claim and implement it that way. But generally speaking, if they reduce rewards by X percent, that'll be reduced by X percent for everybody who owns that NFT on the same day, on the same time. And I'm pretty transparent about that, but that's just generally how it works. And I think it would still be an overall benefit to the protocol because, like I mentioned earlier, these people are selling anyway right now.
Okay. Yeah, I just meant like, if you, let's say you just cut it 50%, right? Then anyone who has, 100 rewards that are already earned, right, that will get cut to 52 if they don't claim it, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's how the contract will read it.
Okay. And then I assume, I know you guys are coming up with proposals, but I assume is one of them going to be, something related to cutting rewards after ROI or after a certain amount earned or something like that? Because, in my experience on the other projects, when they do one of those reward cuts that cuts everyone from, day one, it really kills interest in the project and new money kind of, slows down significantly or shuts down altogether. Like, Chronodes is a big example of that. So is part of the consideration going to be that reductions will occur after ROI or after some days duration that the node has been running, something like that?
So I think that would be an idea if you were to say that these rewards were going to be permanent. So Enor was pretty straightforward in that saying that they're going to be a temporary measure. If we were to be proposing like a permanent restructure, that's how I would suggest it would be proposed. But right now, that's the latest word that I have is that it's designed to be a temporary thing for the basically the short term solution so that we can get to our long term goals. So in that event, you do need to have the changes now and not in a month or in weeks, for example. So I don't know. That's going to be up to the core team to propose how they would like to propose it. But I think that would be more of like if we were to want to reduce rewards for the entirety of the protocol as a permanent change, then I would suggest doing it that way.
Okay, I mean, I think that it would still take effect immediately, but I just mean like if someone's had an Everest for, you know, a month now and they've gotten their money back, right? Or versus someone bought an Everest yesterday, you know, if you cut everyone's rewards equally, all the recent investors are going to be, you know, overly harmed, right, without being able to earn their ROI back. And, you know, the people who have had these for long periods of time have already made their money back. So just something to think about or consider, because, you know, it just, if you still allow people to, you know, you say anyone who's past that point is going to have rewards cut, then I think you'll still have a lot of investors who are interested in coming into Polar. But if there's this temporary cut, you know, supposedly temporary, but where suddenly everything's, you know, halved or something like that, I just think there's going to be people who are reluctant to buy in. And since we're still, you know, relying on Ponzi, right, they're either going to say, well, I'm just going to wait until this temporary cut is over, or I'm no longer interested because you know, it's going to take me too long to ROI in this, you know, environment. So just something to think about.
Yeah, that's a good good thing to think about there. I would kind of treat it as, you know, again, this isn't my call, it's on the core team, but I would treat it, so, you know, do you remember how we did the boost for a period of time where things were boosted significantly for X amount of days or whatever? I would almost propose doing something like that, but on the other way. Because if we're not getting the rate of new investors because of market conditions and other variables right now, then we just need to basically slow down the sell pressure. And then that would have to be, if you were to do that, it would have to be very clear that this is a temporary thing that's going to last X days, whatever days it is. And then we just get through that and then we go back and move on. Now, like if we were to propose a long-term solution, that's how you're mentioning it, is how I would suggest to propose it. To say, hey, let's say, you know, I've heard people talk about degrading nodes and all that at 2 or 3 times. Okay, that's cool. So then you can say, hey, that'll take into effect now, but once your Everest hits 2 times return on token or X times or whatever, then you can change that. That's not necessarily what's happening. I've just seen that. So that's a better way to prevent that shock effect for the permanent solutions. So it just depends on the philosophy of the core team. I think this is more designated towards a short-term approach as of this second.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for your input.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better. I'm on speakerphone, like I'm talking to people on the, you know, just on my normal cell phone. So hopefully you can hear me. Got a nice mic and a sweet setup that I cannot use the Discord. So at least today, but some other day, maybe it'll be fun. King Kaba, you're back in. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. How are you?
Perfect. So I had one more question, more kind of a concern, like I don't know about a concern, but just something I've been kicking around in my own personal head. So I'm committed to compounding right now, right? And my goal was to get to an X amount of Everest before, you know, the hard cap. My concern is, since I'm committed to compounding right now, and there's a potential rewards cut coming, I know, I guess it would affect everyone the same, so our compounding would all be kind of around the same. So, but it does allow people who can drop fresh money in to kind of eat up those Everest without, you know, before people who are just compounding can. So I was wondering if maybe there's a thought about keeping the rewards for compounding the same, but adding some sort of like sales tax to it.
Yeah, so adding like a buy or a sales tax to the token is a relatively significant change. I haven't dug deep enough to see what all our code is currently implemented into. I know our code is designed where you can add things to it pretty effectively, but adding a sales tax right now would be quite a drastic change in philosophy, and I don't foresee the core team being willing to engage in that, but I could be wrong. So that's a theory. I think another effective way is just saying, like, basically increasing the claims tax again, but then now people are saying, well, why would I buy in when my tax rate is 50% or whatever? You know, so that's a weird little psychological thing. Is now I have a sales tax and a claims tax. So some of those things are kind of hard to navigate on the new influx side. So those are the questions we need to figure out on our own end. And I hope just my little thought process there helps people kind of understand that like a lot of these issues are not just one variable effect and boom, we're going to fix it. Like it really does take some secondary and tertiary thought to what are the impacts of these compared to these other methods. And it's a little complicated, but it does allow for us to consider pretty much every option that's out there.
All right, so yeah, I guess I didn't necessarily mean a claims tax per se. More or less just like a way for people that want to compound, not being, not I don't want to say punished, but anyway, yeah, you answered it. I get you. No worries. I was just trying to figure out what my best move would be moving forward, and I guess that's just to keep compounding no matter what happens.
Yeah, with the
I don't know if you can hear me, but I lost you.
Okay, you're good. So basically, just compounding, I think, still a good option for people. But I'm never going to tell people necessarily how to invest or do their thing. But that is still a good option. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna keep compounding. I'm just hoping that the cap lasts long enough. All right,
Yeah.
thanks, sir.
I appreciate it. All right, so at least we got something going on here. So I'm going to bring in Chicken XRP. What's going on, man? Chicken. I know my audio was just working, Chicken. Don't do this to me. I got to check the old general to make sure that it's not just me. Okay, so we can hear me, but can you hear Chicken? No Chicken. Okay. No Chicken. Sorry, bud. Gotta move you back to the audience. Bye, friend. All right, next one. Hannibal OC. My trust level in Discord has degraded, so bear with me there. Hannibal, once you unmute, you will be live.
Sorry about that. There you go. Just have a baby crying in the background there. Thanks for taking the question. I'm going to apologize up front in case you answered this. Just wanted to know how long the proposed reduction was for.
So we weren't given a timeline yet. So that I assume will be a part of the next vote is saying, hey, we'll have just more details in each aspect of it. But if we put a number on it, I would still expect another vote towards that because let's say it's helping a little bit, but there's still more work to do, and we gave it, X amount of days. Then I still think there does need to be room for adjustment if needed.
Perfect. You know what? That's the only question I had because it's about to get loud here, but I appreciate the time.
Hey, appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot.
All right, next one. Rocket. Rocket, I'm trying to bring you in. Whenever you come in, you can unmute and you will be live.
Hey, how's it going, Chib?
Not too bad, are you?
Good. Hey, so been reading pretty much every comment I can on all of the thoughts here on pending changes. It's obviously a challenging situation with a lot of variables. One of the things that I guess just right up front that I'm thankful for is that the team's really looking at this as a temporary measure, right? I've definitely seen a lot of protocols, and I'm invested in some, unfortunately, that very drastically cut rewards without a whole lot of notice. And one of the protocols like that is as good as dead at the moment. We'll see if they've got anything up their sleeve to revive it. But I think just the fact that how this community has handled it is a huge, just good sign. But with that, one of the things that I've noticed is kind of seems to be, and this is just my opinion, but I guess your take on it. One of the things I've noticed that's been so detrimental is just the sentiment of the entire community around how it's handled, how it's communicated, how it's done for what length of time. So I was curious to know if you guys have talked through kind of how to handle some of the sentiment around that, because certainly we'll get to something that the whole community decides on. There will always be somebody who's not entirely happy. But, so part A of the question is, if you guys have already figured out some ideas on handling the sentiment.
Yeah, that's a great question. And like you mentioned, we could literally offer everyone $1 million and there'll be people saying, I wish I had $1,001. So no matter what happens, there will be people that are not too thrilled about the situation. But I do want to make it very, very clear to everybody that I'm DMing with Enor literally almost daily at this point. He is so invested in the community and this protocol Polar. It's like genuinely incredible. So he's everything that the core team is doing right now is literally designed to make the protocol as best as it can be for the people who have nodes. And that's going to be the outlook for it. So we need to ensure that things are okay in the short term so that we can continue to benefit everybody in the long term. This is a drastic thing. We're not at risk of dying, but if this were to be the last day of Polar because we allowed everyone to have 1 million rewards a day, then it doesn't matter. There'd be no reason to be that way. So we need to keep things under control on our end so that we can continue to deliver to the community that invested in us as we invested time back into them and into the protocol so that we can all continue to grow as a community and grow together. Even during just the general downtrend of the price before all this, I don't know how much you were in there. Actually, I think I saw you in there a few times, but the chats were hostile, man. And there's no place for that. You can be upset, you could be, whatever, but there's no place for hostility. And that's why I put out the announcements that I did last week for saying, hey, I'm cool if you got problems, if you got questions, if you got concerns, but if you're gonna treat it like a very emotionally irrational human being, we're not gonna let you just keep spewing that toxicity into the chat room. So be mindful that all of us here are working literally around the clock. I couldn't even tell you how many 20 plus hours, including one 24-hour plus hour day I put in last week for the community. So this is what we want to do. This is what we're going to continue to do. And we need to make it as positive for basically everyone who owns nodes right now, and then allow us to grow and move forward as we navigate out of this current downtrend.
Yeah, and you hit on something really important. And I guess just from my perspective, I'm very thankful that it's been kept from being toxic, and especially that the team hasn't gotten defensive. And like I was actually in a chat of another unnamed protocol where the team would start attacking the people asking questions, and it kind of blew my mind because obviously you're kind of cutting your knees out from underneath you when you're attacking your own investors. But you guys here, Polar, the whole team, whole community in general, very, very different. So thankful for that. At the same time, and I understand how people are feeling, especially when you go into something with an expectation and changes that, can cause a lot to get stirred up. Which kind of brings me to one of my ideas for the protocol that I was curious about the technical feasibility of. Because, just candidly, I'm invested and I'm nowhere near ROI because I've been supporting the protocol and believing long-term compounding. And so, though it pains me to say it, I would rather take somewhat of a temporary cut, knowing that this is going to and that's going to push my ROI real further out, knowing that it's going to last a long time, right? Because that's why I jumped in. But one of the ideas around that too, and just this whole sentiment idea was, most of the time when cuts happen, it's handled that I've seen anyway. It's been like, hey, this is what we need to do. You guys suck it up and go on your day. I was thinking about a much more constructive way to handle it, and one of the things that came to mind, and here's the feasibility part, is what if there was some element of give back to the folks that are giving up rewards, right? And of course, that doesn't have to be in rewards. It could be in some other form or fashion, right? There's a possibility of specialized NFTs, or once rewards come back, some kind of booster NFT, some kind of something there. I was even thinking of like possibly a point system where they're tradable for other things that are not necessarily going to hurt the protocol, but are sort of a kind of like, hey, I'm a committed community member here, kind of a deal to show like, hey, we appreciate the people and we're not just taking rewards and kind of kicking you to the curb.
Yeah, so there's a lot into that, and without going too much into detail, without things that are going to be announced in the future. The discussions that I mentioned that I've had earlier with the core team, that's kind of the general philosophy is that, well, to be very clear, to get off of Ponzi economics, you need like a revenue share system, right? So that way you're not relying on the just sole creation of nodes in order to get a kickback of rewards. So I think you can kind of think about how that would work as these additional things come live, from small to big sort of stuff, and then how that benefit will be for those who currently own nodes and have had them, either since January or since May or whatever it might be, that they can get a benefit to the nodes that they've had, because we do have to be cognizant that this is what built us. This is, that's literally what got us to this point. So there is a lot that we can look into to create sort of an appreciation sort of system towards those who own nodes. But there's just a lot of different ways to do that, and I don't want to release information that I'm not allowed to release yet.
Nice. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And that was pretty much it. I guess the only other thing was, obviously here to help if I can. In the real world, I do a lot of marketing, and I know that topic came up, and it's a timing thing. So, even if it's just knowledge sharing or experience sharing, if I can help out, just reach out. But appreciate you guys.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. It's sort of a like a dumb little analogy, but if you were to market fishing poles, oh no, you can go ice fishing. Never mind. I was gonna say, if you can market fishing poles in, the north in the winter, you probably wouldn't get a ton of sales compared to if you threw them out there in March, right? When people are starting to think about the weather change. So that's kind of the theory of marketing, is when it's down like this, we can throw a lot of money out there, but if it doesn't reach a willing audience, then it's just money wasted at that point. So we kind of have to time it with, which allows us to kind of really reestablish the fundamentals of our protocol, which I think is what we're trying to do here now. All right, Jesse, should we bring you in here?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. It's nice to finally talk to you.
Yeah, you're finally up here. I see you all over the chats, but
Yeah, I know this is my first time actually doing something. I saw that there's 200 people. I'm surprised I was like the fourth one to get talked to. I didn't know it'd be this quick.
yeah. So most people just come to listen. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so first thing, I've been here for a little while, and I gotta say that I appreciate the team. I appreciate how you guys have handled everything. This is not my first project. This is not the first time I've seen reward cuts, and I gotta tell you guys, I appreciate how the team has handled it. How you guys have always considered the community. That will go farther than I think you guys understand, unless if you know about the projects that I'm talking about. So in terms of, when we're talking about reward changes and stuff, this is just me kind of just spitballing and talking about it. I think one of the things that really have to be focused on is, how are people going to feel based on when they get into the project, right? So there's people that got into the project, and let's say on the way down, they supported it. They bought in at $2 before it got lower than that. And then they say, okay, we're going to be increasing ROI. And for some people, that makes a lot of sense. It's, have faith in the team. But, a lot of people are just going to see that, okay, well, if they can just cut rewards when they want to, then why did we sign up for what we're signing up for anyway? And I'm totally down for it, and I get that. But I think one of the biggest things that we have to consider is the logistical growth. So it's the only reason why people question sustainability in node projects anyways. Of course, you guys, I hope that you guys come up with utility, and you guys come up with other things other than, like you just mentioned, just doing a node to try to get a kickback is only Ponzi economics, and I get that. But we have to create an incentive to still compound, which is great. I'm sorry, I don't actually know what the tax is. I don't know if there's tax relief for compounding straight from awards, or if you still have to pay the tax anyways. But we have to move to logistical growth, where you're exponential for a little bit, and then there is a point of maximum growth, but then there's still a reason to compound. So let's say if you have 10 eggs, this is a very, very caveman example, okay? And I hope that you'll come back and tell me where I'm going wrong, and we're just having a conversation, and I hope some of the things get through. but we have to have at least a tiered system, or maybe a more complicated system than tiers, where if you go from 10 eggs to 20 eggs, well, after 20 eggs, let's say, the next 9 or 10 or whatever you want to do, those would just have a little bit less returns than the last batch of 10 eggs. And then when I say this, people say, oh, we can't attack our whales, we can't do this, we can't do that. If people are making thousands upon thousands of polar a day, which is just like absurd money, even at 60 cents for anybody around the world, right? Like it's absurd amount of money. They're going to be much happier to have a long-term bag, and then they'll be proud, and then they'll be able to say, listen, like, my next 10 eggs aren't going to be as good as your next Everest. And that makes sense. But when we just purely let it go exponential, I believe that we just compound ourselves into oblivion. So there has to be a little bit more complicated tax structure, whereas you get diminishing returns, not where your next eggs are worth less than an Everest or something like that, or even as worth of an Everest. And of course, you can change what I'm saying to any tier level. If there's no more eggs being created, and then we're only talking about Everest, well, then I'm talking about tier 4s. So there has to be a reason to compound, but you can't just let the project compound into oblivion, because then the emissions will just get completely out of control. And then we have to talk about reward cuts. And then reward cuts, just saying reward cuts and announcements is very fear-inducing to a lot of people that just kind of simply got into a project with like a couple $100. And then now they're scared that, they thought it was going to take them a few months to get their money back. And now, in Thor's case, I hate to bring up another project. I don't mean to shill or discredit any other project. They went down 99% after the such, on top of they just did everything wrong. And I feel like Polar is in a fork right now of a road, and you guys have the absolute most potential to do the right thing. But it has to be logistical growth instead of doing flat rate cuts. It has to make sense, where people are expecting what's coming. They're expecting the diminishing returns, but they're still very, very proud of it. Right? Like if I had 40 eggs or 40 Everest, and my next 10 were just a little bit less efficient than my last 10, and so on and so forth, I'd still be very, very happy, especially if Polar is their golden goose. Does that kind of stuff make sense?
Yeah, it does. So some in the chat couldn't hear you. They're cracking me up a little bit. All right.
They couldn't hear me?
Yeah, some can, some can't. So to summarize what's going on here, basically you're proposing a system here in which an Everest today is almost like a natural degrading effect over time. Is that correct? Where
not the actual node you're buying. Like, let's say if I bought an Everest right now and I'm at 9 Everest and then the 10. Like, let's say if the 10 was the max. No, it's the fact that my wallet has 10 that they'll say, okay, you're in a bracket now. So your next time you buy a node, that node is just going to be a little less diminished. We're going to get a little bit less emissions out of that one. But you could word that however you want, and there could be other reasons to do it. Like, specialized NFTs every time you get into a new bracket, right? Like, whereas if you can fill up your wallet full of Everest or eggs or whatever, then you have like a 100 wallet, super special, gorgeous NFT. But it's not, I'm not asking you to diminish, because that's basically reward cuts. If I bought an Everest, I want the contract that I'm getting. Do you know what I mean?
I want you off, but people can't hear you. So I'm just gonna, I got you though.
Okay.
The general chat's cracking me up a little bit. All right.
That's okay.
Yeah. I got you. I didn't mean to cut you off, I promise. All right.
No, I totally understand.
Yeah, I understand your premise there. I'm not sure how the back end side of that would work. So for anyone who did not hear him, the question basically is, let's say you are getting, it's like a marginal tax system, but with the nodes themselves. So your first 9 Everest will be whatever, either rewards rates or claims tax rate or whatever you want to call them. And then the 10th one will be a new bracket, and that'll be an adjusted rate. And then the 20th one will be a new bracket, and so on and so forth. I think that is such a large fundamental difference. I truly don't know how the back end side of it would work.
So what I think that you're thinking is extremely overwhelming is that once I get into this new tax bracket, that all of my previous nodes will change. That'll be extremely hard math to do, or it'll take some homework. What I'm saying is, very simply, just your next 10. Just your next 10 is ever so slightly less efficient than your last one. You still have you're still exponential, but your exponential growth, like how fast you're accelerating, slows down. You're still accelerating. You're still making more money than what you were, but it's like we can't just, like, a car can't speed up. A car can't increase its acceleration rate forever, right?
Yeah.
It's just how everything else in the world works, and I think it's the one thing that all node projects are missing, and it's clearly been the major factor in the demise of other node projects. This would stop it. This would, and you could say whale tax, but we're not hurting whales. Whales would very much appreciate to have this. If they're making 10,000 polar a day, or just even, let's say, anything over 1,000 polar a day, maybe it might be just a little bit longer to get to the 2,000 polar a day or something like that. Because if people could just compound it to oblivion, then by their their 99th, they're just making like an Everest, multiple Everests a day, where just making, if they went from 2 Everest a day to just like 1 or what have you, it's hard. Like, there's a million ways that we could go about this, but the main factor is we need logistical growth. And then you could just search up on Google, for anyone that doesn't know, or they can hear me, what a logistical growth curve looks like. It is not in any way, shape, or form to punish whales for compounding. It's showing a reasonable growth rate where you are exponential, which is just pure, we all know what that is. And then eventually it starts to curve the other way. So you would get diminishing returns after you're just making absurd amount of money. And you're saying, well, they risk the most. So yeah, of course. And we get that. But, we have to bring it down back to earth. And if we just cut everyone, including them or including the small guys, some people will feel priced out. And some people are going to feel like, oh, I should have got in early. Because if we only do reward cuts across the board, it does not affect hyper whales at all. They're only a couple of days behind at that point. They're laughing. This is like, I know we got to take care of them, and I want to take care of them. And, I consider myself having a few Everest myself, and I love this project. I believe everyone above a few thousand polar a day would really appreciate some type of scheduled program where people know what they're getting into. But another big thing, at the exact mirror of that,
hey, man,
you gotta. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's just, I'm sorry, we're getting way too, like, we're talking, and no offense to you, we're talking in circles, but no one can hear you. So it's just a lot of dead.
No one can hear me? Okay.
Dead mic. Like, very few can. So I'm going to answer. I'm just going to mute you temporarily while I answer this, and then I'll unmute you. But so what you're saying there, the theory of it isn't a bad theory, but I can make now that nodes are transferable, by the way, this is more extreme than ever. I can sit here while you're giving those examples and make unlimited amounts of wallets. So I'll take my 9th one, and then I'll just send my polar over, and I'll make my 1st one, and then I'll make my 9th one and send my polar over, and I'll just do that indefinitely. And so that theory is less practical. I'm telling you, man, if there's anything exploitable, it's going to be exploited. Then if you were to propose like a node degradation theory, where at 2 or 3 times or 5 times or whatever return on token, then the node itself would degrade. And that would be, a way to make it so they can't exploit that specific code, but still achieve relatively the same results. And you could still talk about that in a very upfront way, that at this date, this is what will happen. And at this date, this is what will happen, rather than kind of just hoping that they follow the rules and don't send it over to a new wallet. I did unmute you, but I don't know if people are going to be able to hear you.
Okay, I hope they can hear me. What I'm gonna say is more simple then. If they can't get around wallet abuse, which you can work away with taxes, transfer taxes and stuff like that. But if you really don't want to worry about that kind of thing, then you can make it across the board, where like or even time based. Like, okay, you buy now and then they slowly decrease over time. This is much simpler. This is like way closer to what you guys have already talked about. Just doing a straight reward cut out of the blue, even with a vote, makes people feel like, because what if they voted no, right? Then their contract that they signed up for, they feel like can be changed at a whim. I feel like if it was a scheduled program is the absolute most key thing here. For me, I think that logistical growth is how it should be, but you can do this in multiple ways. You can do this with increasing the cost of a node, scheduled, very, very slight. Like, we're going to increase the cost of a node, which will lower ROI, lower emissions. and that will make people feel like they have the urgency to get in early, right? Hey, how early did you get in? Oh, I got in before, this phase or what have you. I don't know how much coding that takes. And then you can also do another thing to help with that too, is that you can increase the tax rate of each tier bit by bit, right? So there's multiple ways to become logistic, but I think the key thing is schedules and logistical growth.
Okay. Hey, I do appreciate that, man. I'm going to bring it back down to the audience. There's too many people can't hear, and it's a ton of
as
white
long as
space.
you heard it. Honestly, as long as you heard it, that's really all that matters. I hope you bring it to the team. I hope they heard it, but that's about it.
Well, hey, appreciate you, man. And he did make some great points in there for anyone who was listening. It's just that's so much dead space. I can't keep letting that there. People are going to start leaving, which they kind of already have. So I do apologize for that. Discord, I think, is I don't know, maybe the worst ever possible thing, but that's what people decided crypto is on, is we're on Discord. So that's what we're going to roll with. I guess I'll try it again next week with, the AMA. I might just do it on Twitter Spaces with the AMA. We get more engagement on Discord, but it works better on Twitter Spaces. I'll have to figure that out. But in the meantime, we have the Sandman. What's going on?
What's up, man? How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man.
So I don't know, with the whole not hearing thing sometimes. I know a lot of the focus in today's AMA has been on the reward cuts. So I'll gonna stay out of that one. But I was just curious because I know Frey a day or two ago said that 3.1 is ready and he's waiting on the okay for the team to be able to deploy. So I was just hoping that we heard some sort of news on that, some sort of update on either whether it be a timeline or that, hey, yeah, we're just looking it over, but I know it's complete. I think most of the Discord does, so I would love to hear on that, first of all.
Cool. Oh my goodness, people. People can hear me, but they can't hear the speakers now, but they could hear them before, and I promise I didn't change anything.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
since
so
my question's simple, you could just repeat it and they'll hear what I asked.
Yeah, we're good there. So the question there is, when is 3.1 coming? What's going on with that? So hopefully everyone can hear me there. So the last thing for version 3.1 is the front end work. So the code side of it's done. Frey has that completed. So once the front end is integrated and completed, that's when they can bring it live. And I haven't heard any updates from the front end because I generally don't really associate with that part of the team. So I'll let them kind of give us some more details. But Enor did say in the chat, I think today, or Salty, one of the two, that it's just waiting on the front end. So contract's good.
Sounds like real soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I'll you can bring me down right after this. My quick question, if this is a possibility, is there a way, and this is regarding the cuts kind of, but not really, is there a way to be able to tax additionally for like daily sellers? So that way it gives you some sort of incentive to hold longer as far as the puller goes, to drop the daily sales. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so that's similar to what Thor and I think Power just did with a sliding tax system. So that is possible. It has its pros and cons. As we saw with those two,
sure.
It worked for, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 days, and then it kind of went back to where it was. So I think it's a good theory, but there isn't evidence that it actually solves the issue just yet. So
Yeah.
I'm not super thrilled about that system. I think we can do better.
Got it. And the last thing I'll say is not really a question. I hope you could just repeat me. And I think that, a lot of us here are not only super invested like with our finances, but I think just like passionately with this project.
Oh no, even I lost you. I know, he's gone completely. Okay, he's gone there. So I'm going to bring in something here. I know people are telling me to read other chats. By the way, I'm working totally on one device right now. I'm only on my phone. It's very challenging to kind of navigate through all the questions. But Meowface, this is something I do want to talk about. So decay on nodes. There is a concern that's saying, hey, it's rough because the price decreases inherently on node protocols because there's an emissions issue. So when they decay, you're effectively decreasing the price and decreasing the output, that kind of basically linear down aspect. So I think if you design a decay appropriately, it could have a different effect to it. So let's say that this is totally hypothetical. This is nothing I talked to the team about. This is nothing that Polar has told me they're considering doing. This is just me talking because I think it's an interesting concept. So let's say that you were to just have this theoretical node that generates 100 tokens per day, and at twice your return on a token rate, it decreases to 75, and then 3 times 50, 4 times 25, 5 times 0. So every multiplier it degraded down, right? So in that, let's just say that system is just all you did. In that case, I do not think it's the best idea in general. But let's say at that first ticker, you could say, hey, if you purchase, an additional like reboost to it with the native token for X amount of token, it'll bring it back to day one. And do that through all the tiers up until the point of 0 tiers, to which you would just rebuy the entirety of the node. It could theoretically create a buy pressure if it was done properly to the point that emissions are not continuously going out. I don't know how practical it would be on the back end side, but if you were to do like a node hard cap, kind of like what we've been talking about, and you were to effectively declare a decayed node as no longer in the formula, you could then have a continuous buy pressure, but not new emissions, right? So you would have the same amount of emissions going with new buy pressure. That would be a theory that I would most be acceptable for, but that is nothing that I've heard from the core team. Again, I don't know who's in this AMA with me, but that would be something I would recommend to at least consider, is say, hey, once that node decays at some tiered rate, in conjunction with the hard caps, it allows us to continue to have a little bit of that Ponzi economic pie theory as we have the other revenue streams, and there's a continuous effective buy pressure on the protocol itself and on the token itself. So that's just me being me. We'll see what it is. But it's if you do it the right way, it could be good. If you do it the wrong way, it would be terrible. So seems like people like my idea. Appreciate you guys. Gonna bring in Scallywags. Young Scallywags. Once you accept it, you will be brought in here and you will be live.
Hey, can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me in here. Just wanted to, I guess, with Jesse's, I know nobody could really hear it, but with his point, kind of agree with that as far as the kind of the curve. I don't know, I wouldn't call it a bell curve, but like an exponential curve up versus a for like newer investors trying to get those guys in and started in the protocol, giving them more of a boost initially and then kind of flattening out later. However that would look, I think that's a really good idea for long term, I guess, until it's off of the Ponzi-nomics. But what I was gonna say is, I know with the rewards cut, haven't been really able to monitor the chat during the day because I've been working. But what I don't know if you guys are planning on it, but kind of explaining or showing, hey, if we reduce it by this amount, or if we change this, this is how it's impacted, or kind of giving other like options of this changes and what it could look like depending on different factors. Is that something you guys are going to plan on showing, I guess?
Yeah. So for anyone who could not hear him, again, this isn't on you. I think this is just Discord right now. Some people can hear these speakers, some cannot. So if I understood you correctly, you're just curious of like, hey, what are the proposals going to be for the rewards cuts? And that'll be distributed by the core team. The vote, I believe, just ended, or otherwise was significant enough to suggest that we are going to propose things for people to vote on again by the community. So that'll be presented to the community here in a relatively near future, and people can vote on those different aspects.
And when it's proposed, are there going to be like, I guess clarity is what I would ask, as far as like, if we go with this route, this is the potential outcome, or if we go with this route, this is the potential outcome, versus just saying, hey, we're gonna, we can either reduce it by, X percent or whatever percent, kind of giving a more laid out like roadmap of how it's anticipated to help, so that you can, I guess, vote with more confidence on what works best for everyone. Yeah,
we do need to be very clear with it. And again, for those who can't hear, basically we just need to we need to not react emotionally on our end and just say, hey, we're just going to throw this idea out and hope it works. We need to have a legitimate game plan and say, hey, we're going to do this with the expectation of this result, and we're going to evaluate it on this date. And if we need to continue, great. If we need to adjust, great. But we do need to keep in constant communication with our investors and with our community members here, because it's very, very important to all of you to know what is going on, how it's going, what are the results of what we're dealing with. Because effectively, if we change something and it doesn't work, then we shouldn't keep with it either. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good idea. That's going to be up to us to get that information back to you guys.
I appreciate it. With some of my employees, kind of just telling them, hey, this is what we're going to do. I don't get the buy-in versus letting them know this is what we need to do and this is why we're doing it and this is what it's going to look like and this is how it impacts everyone and getting their take on it as well. So appreciate that you guys are going to look into doing that.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Okay. I don't know how much longer I'm going to continue this because there's so many issues with the Discord audio in and of itself, but I'm going to try to bring in Dr. A here. I know some can hear me, some can hear the speakers. I think everybody can hear me at this point, and some can't hear the speakers. I don't know, but people are tuning out because we're not able to effectively reach the entirety of the audience. But that being said, Dr. A, what's going on?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How are you?
Cool. How you doing? Awesome.
Doing pretty well.
First off, you guys are doing an amazing job in this market. So big kudos to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. So 2 quick things, and I'll let you go. One, I love your idea. One thing that immediately came to my mind when you were start talking about that is the fact that if people know that there's going to be this option at X cost to restart it, that's also going to have people holding and not selling their Polar as a sidebar to that, which obviously will positively affect the price. So that's my one thought I want to throw out there, not really a question. The other one is, this something came to mind too with all the nonsense flowing in the Discord, is if they do this, and I voted for it, obviously it has to be a legitimate rate cut and everything planned out like you already been saying. But I thought of, with all these special NFTs, the options out there with the boosted, what if, and this also solely has to do with the fact if there are, once this gets straightened out, if there are more nodes and the level is not a hard cap anymore, if those special NFTs were something where if people traded those or have them, it incentivized people to do more lucky boxes because maybe those don't suffer the rate reduction. You know what I'm saying? So if you hold those, you're always going to get the normal Polar rate versus the deduction on everything else. So it'll incentivize people to maybe want to buy those with Polar and make money off of that. Or if we remove the hard cap one day, maybe in the future, that it'll incentivize people to go after those lucky boxes because they'll get the original rate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense there. So that is a good different play on it. And for, again, those who may not be able to hear them, it's basically just trying to brainstorm of ideas on how to create a solution that's either short-term or long-term that'll effectively benefit the protocol without, basically removing that trust factor. So, yeah, I appreciate that there. I'm a little discouraged because so many people cannot hear you. So I think I'm going to bring it down to, hey, I appreciate your question. That's a very good thing. I'm going to take a lot of these ideas back and start trying to, converge them into something to bring to the core team, see what they think about it. I'm going to remove you down to the audience. So for anyone who can still hear me, I do sincerely apologize for all of the Discord auditory issues, whether it's on my end or on the speaker's ends or on Discord's end. It's irrelevant. I don't love when that happens. It's incredibly frustrating. And as someone did mention in the chat, I did look like my PFP at one point, trying to figure out my Discord there. So I think next week I might do it on Twitter Spaces. Let me still think about that, or at least I'll have a backup fully set and ready to go, just so we have that idea that we could switch over quick if we need to. But that being said, I appreciate you guys joining in. We've talked about quite a bit here, and I look forward to either next week or an impromptu AMA that I might do later on in the week as we kind of navigate through these relatively uncertain but relatively now stable times because we've leveled out a bit here. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I do sincerely apologize that there was some issues with the Discord. This is old Shib Bear, Polar Community AMA for the week of May 10th, 2022. Look forward to talking to you guys very, very soon.